That's crazy. It says live. I'm going to add some bass to this real quick. Hold on a second. Quantize it. Got something to play along with. How's it going? Hey, Bob. So, we're going to keep talking about soloing. I'm going to give us a little exercise, a little study, or a little kind of scale to work with, and we can kind of play around with it. And may do a little bit of that imitate Tom kind of thing. Jam along with Tom. Let's see. That's really bright. I have that voiced for the SG. I'm going to darken it a little bit for the Strat. Let's darken it a little bit. It's pretty good sound though. Maybe add a little bit more delay, although this mix knob on this is very touchy. So how's everyone doing today? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my amp. I'm in Amplitude right now. I'm working in Amplitude. I'm going to pull down some brightness this morning. Very bright guitar. A little more bottom. Okay, so we're going to keep talking about soloing. Well, let's see. Hey, Chad, what's going on? Chimichanga is here. That's awesome. Good to see you. Bob, welcome. Ed, welcome. Dennis, welcome. Good evening, Dennis. You got dinner in front of you right now? So we're gonna kind of be in the key of C. So no sharps, no flats, which is nice. As always, I'm gonna try to insert a little bit of music theory in with the lesson, but there won't be a quiz on it, so that is a sippable. How do I get no outside? I don't need my haircut. I don't. So I'm gonna. I'm going to show you a little bit of. We're going to start with a C shape. We're going to play over a. Let me actually add a text here so we can have some reference. Text. Okay. And here we go. C D E F G A B C. Lovely. R 2 3 4 5 6 7 R. Not going to line up, are they? Oh well, never mind. Forget the bottom part. So this is just the C scale that we're gonna kind of work with here. You can't see it because it's put it way down there. Okay. And actually, if we give each one of those a number, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again. Or you could think of it as R for root. Hey, John, good to see you. So R, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, R. And that would be a full octave of a scale. R, 1, 2, 3, 4, or R, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, that is could be movable. That could be any. We could be referencing any key. Obviously, if I'm going to go to the trouble to write out a C scale, we're actually going to be playing in C. So, but more importantly, I want you to see a C shape right here. Okay. Basically, if I were to tab that out, I would go X, X, 5, 5, 5, X. Okay. And that's technically a C triad. Okay, it's XXGCE, which are the three notes in a triad, C triad. C, E, G are the three notes in a C triad. That would be root, third, and fifth. And if we think of that, root, this is the root here on the third string. Here's the third, and here's the fifth. Now, if we play them in order, but they don't always land in order on the guitar. Depending on where you are in the chord, depends on what inversion. And inversions, all that means is root inversion would mean that the root's on the bottom. So here's the root inversion C chord. Okay. Root, third, fifth. Now it could be root, you could have root, fifth, and third. So I really like that voicing a lot. But still root inversion, because the root's on the bottom. Okay. If we put the third in the bottom, this would be one version of it. E, G, C. We've all played that one. Or if you just play the middle, these three notes of a C chord, like you're playing a C chord, but you start on the fourth string, that would be a first inversion C chord. Again, no quiz on this, so don't worry about it. And then if we get up, like if we do this one, G, C, E, that's a second inversion. So if the root is in the bottom, it's a root inversion. If the third is in the bottom, it's first inversion. If the fifth is in the bottom, it's second inversion. It makes no sense. Okay. But it's basically your possible notes are C, E, G. So one is the first note, one is the second note, and one is the third note of the triad. So that's kind of what their thinking is. And you can have a third inversion chord too. Third inversion chord would be like C over B flat. Okay, that would be the seventh in the bass. It could be C over B too. That's a much less common chord. It's not too uncommon as a passing chord. Might be nice if I tuned. This one. But that's neither here nor there. We're not going to really talk about that too much. Okay, so not third inversion chords. I'm not even going to reference first, second, and root inversion necessarily. All I want you to be able to do is play this little triad right here, because that's really where we're going to start. And we can think about we can start on the fifth, which is the bottom note. So on the fifth fret of the fourth string is a G, and that's the fifth note in the scale. If you count up in C, the fifth note of the scale. Now the next note in the scale after G is A. Okay. The next note after G is A. So, and that's the sixth. If this is the fifth, and G, A would be the sixth. And a 6-1 suspension is very common. Right? I'm distorting, aren't I? I like having it a little louder in the room. I may have to turn down this mic a little bit. Hopefully that won't affect too much of my voice, but okay. Very, very common suspension. And you can use that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that 6 and we're going to use that in the context of a solo. Okay. We're also going to go to the root here, C, which is on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. And that's the root, or the 1. The 2 is D, and D is one whole step up. So we have the 6, 5, the 2, 1, and then we go to the 3rd of the chord, and that's the E, C, E, G. C is the 3rd, or E is the 3rd. Oh, this is one you can't get anymore. I like these a lot, but they don't make them anymore. It's the IntelliTouch. I love this thing. They don't make them anymore, and I've got like a bunch of them. I hate this one, so don't buy this one. This is the Planet Waves one. It's awful. It's just awful. Changing the battery in this thing is almost impossible. The Fender's not bad. I bought that just because it was super cheap. I wanted to see what it was like. And it's funny because I got all these I've been buying Snark tuners lately, and I really like this one. I've got a matte black one somewhere. Oh, it's on the classical guitar. It actually has a metronome in it. And I left it on, and it killed the battery overnight. So be forewarned, if you get the Snark with a metronome, don't forget to turn it off. So, public service announcement. Okay, so E to F. If E is the third, F is the fourth, and so but that's only one fret away. That's a half step, and that's true of every major scale. E to the third to the fourth is a half step. The fifth to the sixth is a whole step. The root to the second or the one to the two is also a whole step. So that's true of all major scales. Not true of all scales, just all major scales. So let's play this chord here. And it's just like Keith Richards. These are all suspensions. So is it everyone needs a hand to hold on to? No, not hand to hold on. When I was a young boy, some John Mellencamp song. You can think of what it is. Someone's gonna say it. And so, but what Keith Richards would often hammer on the 6 and the 4 at the same time. We talked about that with the open G tuning thing. And then this song, the Mellencamp song, is like they're hammering. I forget the guitar player's name. Dang it, he's a really good guitar player too. But he's hammering on the 2nd and the 4th, and then resolving it to the triad, and then going to the 6/5. Like, okay. That also reminds me of a song by I met him actually, Jackson Browne. I met Jackson Browne at the hi-hat he was doing a gig at the hi-hat in Highland Park, California, a little teeny tiny club. There's a bar, really, not a club. He had a great acoustic guitar sound. So I asked him what kind of setup he had. He was showing me. I even took pictures. So play this. Okay, so we have the 5, the 6, 5. Okay, then go to the root, 2, root, and then the 4. I'm sorry, the 3 and the 4, 3. Okay? I'm going to play a simple 50s 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. Okay, I got it programmed right here. Well, you know what? I'm going to quantize and sound right. Let me see. Oh, is it? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and quantize to 8th notes. I think that'll probably be fine. All right. There you go. Okay, so let's go to the 5. Here we go. Let's do that. 6, 5. I'm hammering on. Now let's slide up to it. Let's try bending it. That's harder. If you're on acoustic, don't worry about it. I'm pulling down, notice. Slide up. Give it a little jump. Okay? And what I'm doing there, it's just a blues thing, kind of. It's a vocal thing. It's like something a singer would do. And this note here is not in the key. That's a B flat, but I'm just touching it for a second. Bad touch. No, this is a good touch. Okay. Hey, Michael, what's going on? Long time no see. Or actually, you were on the other day. But that gives it a little personality if you want to use that. So you've got a lot of different things we can do. We can do hammer on, pull up. Just slide. You can stay on the note if it works. And here's the thing. Without without getting into too much theory, that note's in the C. This note's in the A minor chord. This note's in the F chord. And this note's in the G chord. So this is in the one chord. There's the one. I mean, you can make two notes sing. And there's another thing. A lot of times what I'll do when I'm soloing too is it's all about the button. It's like how you end that phrase. Singers will do it, they'll do something like that, or like Bieber, and I don't mean to bring up Bieber, but one of the things that works for him is he has a little bit of a rasp in his voice, especially at the beginning of a note. So it's that kind of thing. You gotta give the song a little bit of personality, or the phrase a little bit of personality. So we just did A to G, 6 to 5, and we did it several different ways, and we made it musical, and that's just with two notes. You could even do this. You could go... you could do all, you've got lots of tools. So when we're talking about soloing, yes, scales are good to know. I personally, I know all the scales, but I know them as they're wrapped around the caged shapes. And the shape I'm thinking of right here, you could think that maybe, am I thinking the A shape? Right? Here's A sharp or B flat, B, and then here's C. We're playing in the key of C, so but I would be thinking that if I were going down from these triad notes, but I'm actually going up from these triad notes, okay, these three notes. So I'm actually more likely thinking the G shape. Here's G sharp, A, B flat, B, and then here's the C chord. And this is in the caged method, this is the G shape, but we're in the key of C. So this is the G-shaped C chord, okay? So I'm in this mode right here, okay? I'm thinking, kind of visualizing this shape maybe a little bit, and then the scales that go around it. The C really rings loud in this room. It's like, or maybe that's just in my head. I can tell it's in the room because it immediately jumps to the red when I hit that one note. B also, B and C. Let's see. Oh, Jimmy. Yeah, I think the snark is accurate enough. I mean, I have, if you really want to get a good tuner for that kind of thing, then buy the iStrobe Soft by Peterson. Okay, this one's very precise. It's $10 though for your iPhone, and then I think it also has pitches. So if I want to, I don't know if you know how the strobe tuner works, but it's kind of like, see, I'm a little flat because it's trending down. Way flat. Right onto. I'm using the whammy bar to tune my note. Okay, so this is a really good tuner. For like really precision. I have actually a strobe tuner, but those are like a couple $100. I have an actual one, and it's like giant. You wouldn't put it on your pedal board or anything like that. So I also have actually for the pedal board. I have probably, let's see. sure where it is, but passive direct. Okay, you know what? I'm going to set that out. Well, not yet. I'm actually doing 2 video shoots next week, which is hilarious. I never do those. So next Friday, I may not be able to. Depends on when the session is. I may not be able to be here. Huh. That's weird. I must have. Oh, here it is. Little Polytune MIDI. This thing's pretty cool. Great because it doesn't take up much space. You don't need to take up a whole space for on your pedal board for a tuner. But it's also, I'm kind of getting into the clip-ons. They're super handy to have around. I pretty much want to have one in every case. The only problem is then battery goes dead and you think you've got a tuner. You technically don't. As far as, like, if I were a professional, like my guitar tech, he uses a strobe tuner to do intonation on guitars. So if you're going to really do your intonation, you're probably going to want to get like some kind of strobe tuner like this one. Also, you can also get a suction cup mic. I have one. The problem is it doesn't fit in there. I have to get the dongle, the dongle to go in there. So anyway, hopefully that answers the question. Oh, you bought the Polytone? Yeah. No, that's a totally great pedal. Oh, the Polytone. Oh, that's right. They do make a clip. Yeah. I bet that's a good one. It's probably a little bit more expensive though. The Polytone. Okay. Hey, Leon or Leo. Good to see you. Who else is here? Bruce. Hey, Bruce. Oh, Ryan. What's going on? Oh, let's see. When you do a good touch, how far away can you go from the note you want to end on? Does it need to be half step? No. Half step is pretty vocally though. I mean, you could even go less than a half step if you bend it. Right? I'm not getting to that E flat. But if you go up any further than that, it's a little bit unnatural sounding to me. The half step, the great thing about the half step, even though it's not in the key, it works. That's what I love about that B flat. It's like, if I were to sit on it over this chord progression, okay, it's fine there, but then also, it doesn't work on the A minor hardly at all. For the F, no. It doesn't work on any of those chords. But if I play it fast and get off of it. Okay, so then it totally works. It's so cool. I mean, I love that kind of stuff. Shouldn't work, but it does. I love that. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing on the next string down. We're going to go down to the 3rd string here, and now we're on the root, the C note, and so we're doing the 2. It's also a whole step up, and so this note, the C, is in the C chord. Obviously, it's in the A minor chord, which is A, C, E. So there's a C in the A minor chord, so it's going to work totally fine. It's in the F chord. When you play an F chord, there's a C note right there. There's a C note right here. My loud C. We got C notes there. And then on the G sus, there's G sus on that. Just so you know, there's a G sus on that 4th chord, and then it resolves. But G sus has a C in it. So technically, if I never resolved, all 4 of those chords would have a C in it. So this note would totally work. And it's the key we're in. So the tonic of the key that you're in is always going to work. I always say, look, don't make every lick end on the root note or it's going to get a little boring. But the root note, if you end 50% of your licks on the root note, then, you don't need to keep score while you're doing a solo. But if you end 50% of your licks on the root note, the audience will know you know where you are, and they won't get nervous. If you keep ending on weird notes or something, they might go, what? But the 2nd is one of those magic tones, and you can sit on the 2nd, that D note. You can sit on it. It creates tension, which is 100% what music is about tension and release. It's about creating emotions, okay? And I like to create anger. I wrote a screenplay. One of my first screenplay I ever wrote. I was my goal was to piss off the audience, just pretty much nonstop, just make them so upset with the injustice of it all in the movie. It was a kind of a drama about plagiarism, which is a movie that Hollywood would never make. So okay, so let me play this, and I'm gonna. I'm not seeing now. I look. It just seems weird. Okay, it's this way I want to go. There we go. I'm going to now just basically play the 1 and the 2. Okay, so get ready with the C and the D, and we're going to slide up to that E flat. Again, E flat's not in any of these chords, and E flat would be pretty bad over every one of these chords. But if we just do a good touch with it, hey, iced coffee. If we just do a little soft touch on that E flat, it doesn't matter, especially if we get off it fast. Okay, here's the jam. C, D, or yeah, C, D, C. And the D is in the G chord. A speck on my glasses, maybe. I got different glasses on. So you can sit on that D for the G chord because it's more in the pocket for the G chord. Ah, now I brought in the 5 and 6. Oh, now I can hammer on the E flat. See that? See what I'm doing? I'm sliding up and then hammering on. I'm going slow mo. It doesn't work slow, does it? Now go to land on the D. That's nice. If I may say so myself. So I'm going 2, 1, 2, 1. And we get to the G chord, I'm going to go 6, 5. But what that really is, just so you know, that's 2, 1 over the G chord. We could also think, and this gets into again one of those crossroads, or crossroads or the fork in the road. Okay, when we're talking about guitar soloing. Right now, I'm kind of approaching this as we're playing in the key of C over this C chord progression. Okay, so if the chord progression that you're soloing over is in one key, you can think that one key and play in that one key and not really worry about the chords so much. Okay, but you can also take into consideration what the chords are and play to those a little bit more. So that might dictate a little bit more of what you're doing. And so when I said this was a 2-1, it is a 2-1 in the C, in the key of C and over the C chord. But as soon as we go to the A minor chord, technically it's a 4-3 in A minor, but I don't want to confuse things. It's still a 2-1 in C, which is the overarching key, okay? So again, this is a fork in the road. You can start, I'm gonna play over, I'm just gonna play one key and just kind of jam in the key of C, and that keeps it simple. I can use C major pentatonic, I maybe hit some blues notes, I can play C major diatonic, so on and so forth. Or I could go this other route and I can go, oh, it's a C chord. Well, I'll play a licks over the C chord. Oh, it's an A minor chord. Okay, let me do something cool over the A minor. Oh, it's an F chord. Okay, I've got some F chords in my back pocket, or F licks in my back pocket. I can do that. Oh, G chord. So I had a band in high school called F licks in my back pocket. Everybody take a sip. That's a sippable offense. If I say I had a band in high school called F licks in my back pocket, it just is wrong. That's why I thought it made a good band name in high school too. Yeah. Can you play to the background? On kind of feel it's overpowering the background. Instead, I keep playing the first 3 strings. You mean the top 3 strings? I'm playing the 4th string, the 3rd string. I'm trying to avoid the bottom string because it's not the string that's overpowering. It's these notes. And I could turn down the guitar a little bit, but let's see. I mean, the backing track is more for me. Let's see if this is any better. If I go down here, it's definitely going to get fuzzy and distorted. Bob Abbott's got a new band name. Hold on, let me stop here. Okay, so Leo, so hopefully that's a little bit better. I turned down the guitar a little bit. You've been pushing my name out on Quora.com. What does that mean? I'm afraid. Okay, Leo, it's doing... Oh, you're playing... Oh, you're up there. You can do whatever you want. I mean, if you already got this down, you can totally... You can play wherever you want. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm using blues, pentatonic 1 blues to follow along. Basically, so far, that's pentatonic 1. But now we're going to go to the 4. So the 4 is not part of the pentatonic scale. Okay? So essentially what we've done here by playing the root 3rd and 5th of a C chord and the 2nd, 4th, and 6th, which are the suspensions. And I can play them all at once. Here's the 6, the 2, and the 4 resolved to the 5, 1, and 3. Now we've got a 6-note scale. If we're going to continue, that would be the next 5. But now we're going to have essentially a 6-note scale. The only note missing out of the diatonic is the B natural, which is totally fine. I'm just talking about having a starting place for a solo. You know, like, okay, I'm going to start here. Because again, it's all about starting with a good idea and developing that good idea. That's what a good solo should be. It shouldn't just be you shredding on scales. It should be something that musically makes sense. Now, if you're in a heavy metal band, that might be different. If you're doing bebop, also different. If you're playing bluegrass, that's also different. But those 3 categories probably represent about 2% of the music that's being listened to out there. So, and that's total. So, yep. So far we're there. We're doing that. Love Hurts, exactly. It does sound like Love Hurts. All right. So here we go. Now I'm going to play. Let me get the jam track on. And now I'm going to play. That one's got a little bit of over the G chord. It works nice. There's the F for the F chord. Now if I do that little... Doesn't quite work on the F, on the 4. Doesn't work. I don't like going up to the 5th. I mean, you can do it. That's totally fine. But as far as a grace note goes, I don't really like it. You can do it this way. You can do it like that as a hammer-on. Maybe not so much a slide like we did here. Now, neither the E or the F is in the G chord, so that's why it's a little weird right there. It wants to go up. It wants to go up there. Then you get to your, which is the same as. So now let's do the C and D. Do that part. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Down to 2. In the key of C. I'm just going C, D, E, F, E. C, E, F, E. Sing along, maybe. Okay, now let's go all the way down. We're using all 6 notes. I'm just using those 6 notes. I'm just kind of having fun with them. I'm just trying to mix them up a little bit to show you that you can actually do a lot with very little. I mean, Beethoven did it when, you know. Oh, I forgot it's Wednesday. My gardener's here. Okay, so let me see if I missed any questions here. Oh, and thanks, Bruce, for doing that. Quora is a public question and answer website with different topics you can subscribe to. One topic I follow is Mastering Guitar. It's moderated channel, and I share your name for people looking for help. That's awesome. Meant D string 7th fret. Oh, sorry. Fretting the D and the G 5th fret and hammering the. It sounds cool. Yeah, exactly. It's all about making. And so with the let me put here. I mean, I don't know. How can I write this? It's just one. So you have C, which is the root, and then you have E, which is the 3rd, and then you have G, which is the 5th, right? And then we have, we can take that. We're taking the C up to D to create a 2-1 suspension. We're taking the E up to F to have the 4-3 suspension, 4-3, and then you have the 5-6. And it's all, and here's the thing. Anywhere you can find a triad, like if I were to, like I can take this, like, here's the crazy thing. I'll just highlight these two. I'll go up. No, now I'm in E. All right, now I'm in D. So if I just go up 2 frets, now I'm at the 7th and the 9th fret, and then also the 8th. if the song's in the key of D like that, or if I go up. Okay, now if I play it, now I'm in E flat. Can I just take that up? It's really that simple. But anywhere I find a shape, a triad shape on my, hold on a second, let me get my windows organized here. Anywhere I find a triad shape on the fretboard, see, that's just one of them. Technically this is a triad shape, but here I can do it here too. I think Dennis may be up here, I'm not sure. But there's your 5, there's your 6, there's your 1, there's your 2, and there's your 3, and there's your 4. Now you're up there where everybody can hear you. See, if the whole band is playing down in this range, and, the piano player, the bass player's down below that, the drummer's got the toms and the kick and the snare, and everything's kind of in that mid-range, in the low range. That's why you need to... Or I could do those exact same licks here. That's a real reach, though. That's really up there. And it's all I'm doing is exactly the same shapes as I did here. Up here. At the 17th fret. But I can do it at the 12th fret. I'm much more likely to use that. So I'm basically visualizing what does that look like? There's the D form. So this is a D form C chord right here. Okay, here's the A form C chord, here's the G form C chord, here's the E form C chord, here's the D form C chord. But actually, because I'm playing above this quote unquote, oh yeah, I'm using air quotes so we can take a sip. That's one of the rules. If I use air quotes, we can take a sip. If I use if I'm going above the shape, then I'm not so much thinking D form as I am thinking C form. Okay. Really, that's funny. Let's see. Okay. Oh, hey, Kathy. Good to see you, Kathy Murray. Oh, keeping the chords apart from the chord shapes. I'm just thinking of how to keep the actual chords. Well, and that might be what you might be. I think what you're saying is to try to keep the range so that there are two different places, so they're not like occupying the same sonic territory and then getting in the way of each other, which is very true. But that's part of the reason why I do piano. Okay, I'm going to go back to C here. Part of the reason why I use piano because it doesn't sound like a guitar. Like if I strum, then it might be a little hard to hear the guitar on top of that if I played in the same range. So I might do. But right now I just kind of want to keep it simple. I want to make it, give you some tools to begin to solo. Because for a lot of people, soloing is very intimidating. And for a lot of people, soloing is all about technique and scales and speed and all that stuff. And it's really, ultimately, that's not the kind of solo people want to listen to. And so you can, so the reason I showed you the 4, the 6, 5, 2, 1, and 4, 3 suspensions was because, again, music is all about creating tension and releasing it. And those are, no, that doesn't work. Those are all great tools to have in your tool belt for when you want to start playing a solo. And again, it's just something to get you started. Like what I really like that, you know. You know, using the different octaves and things like that. Once you have something down, once you have a lick you like, even if something as simple as that, try to find it in different octaves. Because you can go back and forth. That'll work through the whole. So this one here is at the 7th and 5th fret of the 4th string, and then I'm going to the 10th and 8th fret of the 2nd string. Okay, so check it out. See that? So it's almost like you're, you know, soloing almost should be like, oops, that's not what I want to do. Wanted to hide that. Okay, you got too many windows open. Soloing should be, you know, music in general should be, when you're playing with a band, should be definitely a conversation. You're having a conversation. Oh, we're buffering. Dang it. Well, as long as, I don't care if I'm buffering. I just don't want my wife, because she's teaching right now. She's teaching 24 kids right now, so. Yeah, Leon, thanks. The, dang it, it's buffering. Sorry. I see the red. Let's see if I'm getting warnings from, well, it says okay. So maybe the buffering isn't too bad. It's keeping up, but so, and I should have probably written out some kind of diagram or something. I just didn't get around to it. I could draw it, and then I'd have to scan it, and then it's just like, no. Oh, it just went down to 0. So you guys are going to get a buffer, I can tell. Yeah. Oh, see, Iced Coffee says, sounds nice, fretting 5th fret D, G strings. And oh, yeah, slide. Yep. That's it. And then here's the other thing. On the E, we did this with it's a little easier to bend further up the neck, but for the E and the F, the 3 and the 4, a bend is nice. You can practice that. And one thing, like I'm bending with my 3rd finger, but I also got my 2nd finger behind it, maybe even my 1st. I don't need my 1st, but, right? You can put your pinky and get that F note like that, and then take your pinky off and try to feel what that feels like to get to that F. Dang it. Yeah, it's going back and forth between red and green, red, green, red, green, buffering wise. Sorry about that. I mean, this is the software is telling me this. OBS Stream Health. See, I'm still not getting any Stream Health data problems with anything from YouTube. They're not telling me anything. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, I can see it now. Dang, I hate that. I'm not asking my computer to do much, to be honest. Hey, Jan, good to see you. Yeah, we're green now, so I think it's okay. We'll see. Okay, now, if I were to move the shape up to here, okay, and I did this, and this is kind of like the E form C chord, not kind of like, it is the E form C chord. So I'm on the 4th string, I'm at the 10th fret, 9th fret, and 8th fret. And that bottom one is the root. So we're in what's called root inversion. No quiz on that. So there's the root. So the 2 is up here. And here's the 3. The 4 is right here. Okay, at the 10th fret. And the 5 is here. Okay, 5, 6 is here. Okay, so let's play this shape with me. Okay, now for Dennis, we're moving a little higher up the neck. So we're going to stand out a little bit more. I'm going to put that jam track on. Okay, let's do the 2-1. This is the D note to the C note. So that's the second note in the scale to the first note of the scale. And stay on the 2 for the G chord. Do that little, and then play C, D, and then just sit on that D. 12th fret and 10th fret. Slide it. Again. So that's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. You can sing along with it if you want to start getting your head and your hands together. Play that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. C, D, C, 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 C. That's the melodic theme for the COVID. CDC. That's our theme. It's a pretty boring theme because quarantine is boring. Okay, now we're going to go up to the E. So this is the third of the C triad. You can see that right up here. Okay, see the third? E, and then what's the note above E is F, and so that's a half step, and that's the 3/4, 3/4 suspension. And this is the one that kind of won't work real well over the G chord. It works great over the C, E, and the C, A minor, and F chord. You can sit on that for the F chord, but I like the sound of that E over the F chord. So if you want to go to that for the G chord, you can. E, F, E, E, F, E. Now I don't know if there's a government acronym for an organization with the acronym EFE. I'm sure there is. Sadly. I was reading some maybe some big UN paper with stuff that had the list of all these U.S. government organizations, and it was like 7 pages of acronyms. I'm like, oh no. That's what that makes me feel like doing. A half step bend you can do with one finger. Okay, now the next one is so remember this is our triad shape we're building on. Okay, and there's the 5th of it, so that's the G. And the suspension, the note above G is A, or the Fa 6. And that was the one that was down. There. But while you're playing this, visualize this chord here, the C key. We're in the key of C. And I'm just using that third on the 3rd string. to that B flat. Which gives it a very bluesy sound. You're going to like a seventh chord. You're making that C a dominant seventh instead of a, you know. If I were to go to the proper seventh, it would be this very pretty. That's like, ooh, jazz. Ooh, pretty. Ooh, sharp 11. Now that's. Now, see, I wouldn't do that very often, like, you know, like we did here. It just fits in the hand so well. This is a little bit more like, but I would probably, see, yeah, because we have that root and the fifth there. So here's, the root and the second. So now we're on CDC again. Our COVID theme. Lull your listener into a sense that you're going to do the same thing over and over again, and then change it up a little bit, like you know, you just make subtle changes in your idea, and it gives you you know, some movement on your solo. Now, here's another. We can stop. I'm going to stop now. That's an hour of instruction. I've pretty much been going from minute one. But a solo should have some kind of. So there's a pastor. What's his name? Jerry. There's a pastor that comes to our church about once a year. He's a black pastor. I think he's at a mostly black church where he preaches, and he is hilarious because he starts out, and he you know, we have 3 services. So he does this 3 times every weekend when he comes to our church. Jerry, what's Jerry's last name? Dang it, super nice guy, and he starts out kind of slow and quiet and low, and you know, you almost are going to fall asleep. You're like, oh my gosh, really, dude? You know, it's the first time you see him, you think, he's a public speaker. And it's fun to watch because in about a 35-minute sermon, he'll start at that, yeah, you know, you got this, and yeah, we talk about this, and we talk about that. And then, but he starts getting more and more animated, and then by the end, he's like preaching, you know, and saying stuff, and then the church is like, amen, amen. It's like, it's a powerful, and I hate to use the term manipulation, but to be honest, it's when you're a public speaker, that's part of your job is to you know, to create a reaction of some kind, and so that's a solo should have a similar arc. Now, hopefully, it won't be 35 minutes long. I would have a real hard time creating any kind of arc for 35 minutes. I mean, and that's the thing. It means Jerry has to have incredible self-restraint, right? He can't get there at minute 15. No. He has to get there at minute 25. See, if he gets there at minute 15, he's got to be at that level for the next 25 minutes or 20 minutes. And that's just not, it's not sustainable. He couldn't do 3 or 5 sermons a weekend doing that. So it's like this slow burn. Okay, so the same thing's true if you've got, and I would say if you have the ability to record yourself, I would create a simple little progression like this and give yourself 8 bars to come up with a solo, and then record 10 different solos, and make sure that like You've got a count off going in. Like, for example, let's see, how would I do this? We gotta put it somewhere. What's the tempo out here? All right. So I take this, this, and this, and I drag it out here. And basically what you do is you give yourself a little bit of a count off, like a bar count off, and then you... So the idea here is might turn on the click. And there's the end, right? So that's the end of the solo, and that's all. It's just 8 bars. If you can get your up to speed on your studio, your DAW to be able to capture your own soloing, create a simple 1-6-4-5 track. It can even be a 1-chord track. But then you can practice, coming up with spontaneous ideas, maybe write solos, which would be unspontaneous. And that's 2 camps right there. See, again, there's another fork in that. There's a million forks in the road of soloing, okay? And we've talked about a little bit about that, but like sometimes the best solos are the ones that are like pre-written out and they're like specific. And I showed you that example. I don't know if any of you listened to that Jay Graydon solo on the Twilight Tone song or the Twilight Zone song from Mayhem Transfer. That solo is in crazy harmonization. It's 3 parts. Really cool harmonies. It's not all stacked thirds or anything like that. It's all sorts of different things. I wish I could play it, otherwise I'd get a copyright infringement thing. But that was clearly a written solo. He wouldn't have been able to create all of that. That he basically orchestrated the solo, and then with guitars. And I know there are other solos out there that have been done that way. They've been written, and then there's the improvised solos. Sometimes the chord progression is so hard you kind of want to write something out, or at least have a plan. And so that's another, like I said, another fork in the road. So that's something you can practice. You can practice writing solos for an 8-bar phrase. You can practice improvising solos for 8-bar phrase. But the other thing that I'm talking about is the kind of have a plan of action for building, for growing, and for kind of having a peak in the solo. Make sure that the end of the solo is the peak. And one of the things to do is, I wasn't using the pinky on anything, was I? But you can use your pinky. Or you having a hard time not using your pinky, or it's just getting in your way. Iced coffee. But you've got several tools that you can use to create, a peak to your solos. You want your solos to go like up, and that could be pitch, could be one of yours. And I use pitch, right? I'm still talking about this lesson, but anyway, I started low and I ended up high, and then I ended up kind of in the middle. But it kind of gave it an arc. It doesn't have to be like straight up. It can go up and then kind of fall off. It could go up for the first 7 bars, and the last bar could be just kind of a chill out. Okay, I'm at the end of my solo now. Hey, Sergio, Brazil, represent. The other thing you can use, so I used pitch there. You can use volume. You can pluck soft. And that's what Jerry would do. Pastor Jerry would do that. He would get louder and louder. He'd start out so subdued, and then by the end, I'm playing the exact same notes, but I had a growing volume to that. And electric guitar is great for that, especially live. Speed could be another component. You can start out with a. You know, I started out with kind of whole notes, and then I went to quarter notes, and I went to eighth notes. You could even, you know, that kind of thing. And like I said, pitch is another really good. And you end up there, you know. I often tell the story, and I've told the story here before too, about working on a song with Justin Bieber and Taylor Swift. And they wrote the song, and I got called in to replace Taylor's guitars. And it was a very, very simple 3-chord song. No surprise there. But it was actually, I think Taylor did most of the writing on it, especially the lyrics and the melody. It's actually a really good song. And they sang it together. It was a really good song. No one's heard it. I mean, I think literally there are probably 10 people in the world that have heard it. And they brought me in to replace Taylor's acoustics, and I did some electrics on it. And then they brought me back in the next day to do a guitar solo. And I kind of complained about that to my friend Kook, who was the producer. I said, a guitar solo? You know, he goes, yeah, I want you to put an 8-bar guitar solo. And I said, a guitar solo in a pop song? This is not 1984, you know? And he goes, all right, just for that, I'm going to make it 16 bars. And I was like, dang nabbit. So now I got to come up with a 16-bar guitar solo. Let's see, question from Brian W. Switch pickups during solo. Oh yeah, I do that all the time. That's also a great tool. I don't. Yeah, definitely. If I'm like, I can do that right here for you. Example. So I might, you know, I'm on my neck right now. Yeah, I love going back and forth between pickups. I do that all the time. I almost can't do a solo without doing it on a Strat. I wouldn't as likely do it on a Les Paul, but I don't really play Les Paul that often. So I did play Les Paul at church this weekend, though. That was kind of fun. That kind of answer your question? So, yeah, I mean, and when I go to the bridge pickup, I'm you know, like, this sounds really good on like the arpeggios. Kind of the if I'm going to hit 2 notes, it sounds really good. I think part of the reason is because there's maybe less overtones. So when I hit like that kind of thing with the bridge pickup, but it's a little bit more overtones, and I guess it gets a little bit more fluttery or something. Although that sounds great too. And if I'm using high gain, I'm probably just going to go ahead and use the bridge pickup. So if I was doing like this, I'm probably going to use the bridge pickup. So let me see. I think I have a. Okay. So let me do some of those suspensions here with this tone. 4-3, 4-3. Yeah, with a bigger, higher gain tone. I mean, I like the neck too. I can actually play faster with the neck pickup in high gain. But I feel like it kind of gets lost or something. It sounds a little, nasally. So I don't know. I'm just showing off now, and that's not saying much. It's so rare that a speed licks like that would ever be appropriate in a song. I mean, it just I don't know. It just doesn't propel the song forward. You really want to, as a session guitar player, my number one concern is to support the song, to make the song better if I can. And when I'm writing pop songs, that's totally different. The song starts with me. So I'm just trying to create a really cool vibe that some punk kid can write an amazing top line on. Stupid punk kids. The speed stuff, and it's good to have the speed stuff if you need it. You're right. In small bursts, it definitely doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have that, have the technique ready. It's almost like, in some ways, if you do it in small bursts, it's more impressive because it's like they know that you could do it throughout. But they know that you could literally play that, solo. You could play super fast all the way through, but you're exercising amazing restraint because you're trying to serve, in this case, the song. Which again, that's really what you want to do as a session guitar player. You don't come there. I don't go to a session with an agenda, and I have, and I've been wrong. I see it happen all the time. I see it at church a lot too. The same thing's true with church musicians. You get a new pedal, and for some reason, you just tend to work that pedal into every song. It's like, dude, you're just playing around with your pedal, Or some guitar player learns a new trick, like rhythm. I see it with kids all the time. They're like, "Oh, I learned this new funky thing." It's like, yeah, but we're not playing funk, so why are you playing funky grooves over this rock song? It doesn't make any sense. And it's like it's almost like they're practicing or something. And that's ridiculous. I don't care if it's something you could have done in 7th grade. If it's the best thing for the song, then do it. And that's the same thing with solos. Every solo I've ever played has been way beneath my abilities, and because it was the best solo for that moment. And I don't even consider myself a great soloist. I don't get a lot of calls to do solo, to come in and do solos on records. My friend Michael Thompson actually got called he got a phone call. Picks up his phone. He goes, "Hello," and it's like, "Hello, Michael? Yeah, this is Michael Jackson." Yeah, he didn't believe it was Michael Jackson calling. "I really liked your rhythm playing on the song. I was wondering if you would, play a solo on this 8 bars in the song." And Michael was, sure, of course. Once he realized it was Michael, I think he actually hung up on him, and Michael had to call him back. That's probably one of the problems with being a celebrity, is that nobody really, you put your name in a restaurant, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, you're Earl Hershiser." I know Earl Hershiser. And he called me once, and before I knew him, and I didn't believe it was him. I thought it was one of my friends playing a joke, and he wanted me to play at his Christmas party, play classical guitar, Christmas songs at his Christmas party. And I said, "Oh, okay," or whatever. "Oh, sure, Oral. Yeah, sure. I'll be there Friday. No problem." And I hung up the phone. And he could tell by the sound of my voice that I was like not believing it. And he's probably, and people, anybody who's pretty fan. And this was like right when the Dodgers had won the World Series. He won the Golden Gloves. He won the MVP of the World Series. He won MVP. He did was it 49 innings? What was it? What was the record he did? How many innings in a row? It was like 96 innings in a row, scoreless innings. He had that sinker that everybody kept topping and hitting right to the shortstop. It was like, dang it, everybody kept hitting that sinker and just topping it, and it went right to the infield and getting thrown out. He did that 1,000 times. And so it was right during all that. So his name was everywhere, and his picture was everywhere. And then he calls me, and he asked me to play at his house for his Christmas party. And I was like, "Okay, sure, Oral Hershiser." And that's how Michael Thompson was with Michael Jackson. It was like, yes, okay, and then Michael called him back and said, no, no, really. And I guess maybe it was even Quincy Jones had to call or something and say, no, 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 we want you to play. So they flew Michael Thompson first class from LA to New York, flew his pedalboard, which is literally the size of my room, and, airshipped it and flew him all the way there, put him up at the Four Seasons, paid him a ton of money, and Michael came in and played a guitar solo for a song. And then he goes home, and then he gets a call. Michael, this is Michael Jackson. I've got another song I want you to play a solo on. And he's like, can you just send the tape this time? Because that was like 5 days out of his life to go to New York, and he made a lot of money, and he wasn't complaining. But it was like, it'd be a lot easier, and my pedalboard's supposed to show up back up today, so I could set it back up. But I think he told him, hey, would you, mind sending this? So they actually flew someone out with a master tape, because it was a 2-inch tape. They flew him out to California, delivered the master tape, waited till Michael was done, and then they flew it back to New York, with personal courier. I'm like, that's hilarious. 59 Squirrel Inches. Yeah, so this was that year that I played. No, this would have been shortly after that. 88, so because Alex was a baby, so that would have been the Christmas of 93. But Oral went to my church, but it's a big church, and I didn't really know him. And so he called me. Here's a story. Okay, this is the story for today. So he calls me, and I didn't believe it, right? I said, okay, thank you, Oral Hershiser. I'll see you Friday, And then he calls me right back, Tom, this really is Oral Hershiser. And I'm like, oh, shoot, dude, I'm so sorry. I thought it was my friend Scott giving me it, just messing with me. And so hey, Diane here? Dang it. Yeah. Wait. You said her name, but I don't see her. Maybe she's further up. Anyway. So, I should do a video on, let me write this down in my video list, on the forks of soloing. That could be a serious video. So I'll call it, I think it's not a bad name, Soloing Forks in the Road. Okay. So I don't want to show up at the party and be setting up. So I have this like PA system that I used to use for my classical guitar, and a microphone and everything, and he'd get a chair. So I wanted to go to his house that morning, or late morning, like 11 o'clock, and set up for the party that night, and make sure that my speakers were out of the way, find out where I was going to be, and then later I would show up just with my guitar, simple, and then I would hang around to the end of the night, and I would hang around at the end of the night and then tear down at that point. Typical music gig. From Sergio regarding mixing pentatonic and diatonic scales. How to mix pentatonic and diatonic scales in a good shape. Well, we're kind of doing that with this whole lesson. So if you go back to the beginning of this lesson, I've got a 6-note scale. The only note I'm missing in here is the B. I've got G, A, C, D, E, F. I got every note but the B note in there. So it's kind of this hybrid. Right there is a hybrid pentatonic mixolydian. Again, I know the pentatonic scales, and I know the mixolydian scale. I mean, not the mixolydian, I'm sorry, diatonic scale. But I never think of scales when I'm playing. I'm thinking melodies. I'm thinking singing. I'm thinking playing something that people want to hear. So that's where you use the scales to help you find the notes you need, but don't play scales. And almost don't think scales. I know that sounds like, but it's exactly what Larry Carlton told Steve Lukather when he was getting a start, and Larry Carlton was a big session guy in L.A., and Lukather was wanting to be a big session guy in L.A. He says, don't think, play. And that's great advice. Really just, learn what you need to know. And that could be new every day. Like if, you got a chord progression you've never played over, you may have to learn a new scale for this certain weird chord or something. Woodshed the crap out of that scale until you have it upside down, inside out, up and down the neck. And then when you get to it, that chord that needs this new scale, then that works. But generally, I try not to think too much about scales. Okay. So, don't think, feel. Exactly. Oh, she feels bad. I know. I wonder if she's watching in retrospect. Maybe she is. So I go to Oral's house to set up, and at this point, Beth was back at work. We just had a baby in May, and it was December, and she was teaching. So during the day, I had Alex. It was just me and Alex in the house, and it was fine because Alex was very, pretty easy baby, and I actually would take him to gigs and stuff like that. Just sit him there in the crib, and I play classical guitar gigs and stuff. So I had Alex, and Alex was being a little bit fussy while I was setting up gear, and I, of course, had to leave Alex in the house while I went to my car to get more pieces of gear and stuff like that, And Oral was like, well, can I hold him? And I said, oh, sure, sure, So he picked up, and Oral has, I think, 4 kids, and he picked up Alex and, held him. I could tell immediately he knew how to hold a kid. And baby, Alex was not even a year old. He was like 6, 7 months old. And Alex just threw up all over Oral Hershiser. So next time Alex is on here, you guys can bring that up. Is it true you threw up on Oral Hershiser? Alex is lactose intolerant, and he was having troubles with that kind of stuff. He would have a hard time sleeping through the night because he was having, he had like acid reflux or something. He was a poor kid. We didn't know. We didn't know he was colicky until we had the second kid, and that kid Jack slept through the night. So a totally different scenario. But and then I went back that night, just me to play at the party, and a lot of friends from church were there because he was in one of the Sunday school classes, and I had a lot of friends there. And Oral had this little office, probably about this size, maybe a little bit bigger, but totally paneled, wood paneled. He had set up a kind of a, and this is in Pasadena. He had like a shelf on the very top, and on the top shelf, it was crazy. He had magazines, these framed magazines sitting up on the shelf, wrapping around, touching each other, all the way around the top of the office. And they were all magazine covers that he was on. There were, I don't know, 20 on one side, 20 on the other side, 30 on one side, 30 on the other. You're talking about 100 magazine covers, including Boy's Life from when he was a little boy and a picture when he was a little kid. I think there were 2 covers that he did for Boy's Life. It was unbelievable. And he also had in the office, in a glass case, he had the World Series trophy. He had from '88. He had the Golden Gloves. He had the MVP from the season, and then also the playoffs or the World Series MVP, all in there. And so all the guys were crammed into his office. We were all in there. I don't remember if we were smoking cigars. I wasn't smoking cigars at the time, but there might have been a couple guys smoking cigars. I mean, we were just like, it was freaking mecca to be in that. If you're a sports fan, especially if you're an LA, fan or a Dodgers fan, it was like, are you kidding? This is like the coolest place to hang out. So that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun. I don't know where. I think Oral lives in Florida. I know he had a restaurant in Florida, something like that. So, and I know he does color commentating. I think he may be back in LA because I think he's does the Dodger broadcast. I'm not sure. We're not friends or anything like that. It was pretty much a one-off gig. I've seen him a few times. He knows who like for the next year or two, I'd see him at church and he knew he remembered me. But I think if he saw me today, we'd have no idea who I was. He'd be like, "Oh, I did hire you." Yeah. let's see. Yeah, no, it's true, Dennis. My reason for saying fork in the road, actually, it's almost like a two-prong. It's like a tuning fork. It's two-pronged. Because I can, but it keeps splitting off, right? Like you can go this direction and then this direction, whatever. But you know, like I said, one of the forks in the road is: are you going to play over in the key, over the tonal center of the whole progression, or are you going to play over each chord individually? Are you going to play over each chord individually, or are you going to play through the chords so that when you're like going from A, I'm going to way gainy. Hold on a second. When you go from like say A7 to D7, are you going to play an A7 lick and then play a D7 lick, like something like, you know, are you going to go right? Or are you going to play something that shows off the difference between those two chords? Right? So what I did there was I'm playing kind of over my A7, and then I use that G and I go down to the F sharp of the D chord. You know, that would be playing through the chord. You know, playing over the changes, pointing out the change that makes up the change. Not too abstract. But you know, the temptation is just to play A lick and then D7. And that's a lot of guitar players. That's their MO, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally legitimate. But sometimes I find a lot of players, some of the best players are the ones that kind of keep everything flowing. Like bebop lines a lot of times, like where I'm going D minor 7 arpeggio down to the G7 flat 9 to the major 7. I don't know. But in that situation, I'm trying to do something that kind of seamlessly morphs from one chord to the next chord to the next chord to the next chord, where you're just kind of sliding from one to the next. And that's sometimes, you know, easy to do when the chords make sense, you know. But when you got something that's a little, it's a little tougher. I'm out of tune. I've got a tune real quick. I think I must have done some bending earlier, huh? Richard. Oh, hey, Richard. Richard's checking in. Everybody knows now we start. The new time is 9 a.m. Pacific time. So again, just to kind of reiterate, and I may talk more about this on Friday, this Friday, I think. But was basically, you watch the beginning, you know, from the beginning of the video, we started working on suspensions. Find a triad. If you're in the key of C, find a C triad, and then find the suspended notes on it, and that gives you 6 notes right there to get started for soloing. And you can make your whole solo about those 6 notes and never have to play another note. And you could do that for 1,000 solos, and it would be very listenable and very fun and fine and everything. And we did do some grace notes and things like that. And so again, triads, you can find them all over the place. And again, you know, somebody asked about, I touched my face, so let's take a sip. Someone was asking about using pentatonics and diatonics and how to get between them and everything. And that's kind of what we talked about. We kind of did a combination pentatonic, diatonic scale, 6-note scale kind of created with the root, third, and fifth, and the suspensions, the 2, 4, and 6. and again, don't worry. There's no quiz on this. Take another sip. Celebratory sip. All right. So the but when what I'm doing oftentimes when I'm soloing is I'm thinking Cage method shapes. Okay, I'm kind of seeing how everything connects via the Cage method. So I can see triads all over the fretboard. Okay, I see this C shape, which is the C shape, or the D form, or the C form. I mean, sorry, the E form. Then we did the G form right here. This is the one we kind of concentrated on. You can see the A form. And we didn't actually do any of these when we were messing around with the 4, 6, and 2 suspensions. We did them all on the same string rather than adjacent strings. So that would be a 2-4, a 2-1 suspension, but not 2 adjacent strings. Mainly try to keep them on the same string, just so you could have some fun with the articulations. You have a lot of options that way. I didn't really. It's not as much fun to do when they're on 2 different strings. Heck, you can do just that. It's a great exercise to find. You can try to find all of the suspensions in the key of C, or over the C chord, up and down the net. You could do it on each individual string. Sippity sip sip. All right. What else is going on? Catherine, gotta run. Dog needs a walk. You mean the dog needs to take you for a walk? No worries. Catherine's got a real job, like me. So I totally understand. You go do your real job, Catherine. I'll do what I do. Okay. John is asking. Let's see. Is one of those ideas more preferable than the other? Seems like outlining the individual chords with the chord changes would be more musical and allow more soloing ideas. Not exactly sure what you mean, John. We're limited to the chat format, but that's one of the. I think if you were here earlier, I meant if you may not have been here earlier when I mentioned it, one of the forks in the road is: are you going to play over the key tonal center like that? This chord progression, which by the way I should have probably written out. Let me see. Was C to A minor to F to G. Okay, very, very common 50s 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. Go for it, Roger. Good to see you. So the question is, I mean, I think your question you're asking is, should you play over each individual chord or should you play over the key? And that's one of the forks in the road. Okay, you can play over each individual chord. I might do that, but I probably do it without thinking because I'm trying to create if you listen to the chord progression, you know what's going to happen, and that progression is very, very predictable. Yeah, and it's still actually, there's a lot of songs even today, kids. You can make it sound like an old progression, but if you do it right, you can sound like a new progression. I mean, I think Ed Sheeran has a couple songs with this chord progression. I know, there's a lot of pop artists that still use that progression, so it's not totally arcane, archaic, but so the other option would be to play over the individual chords. Sometimes, though, if you play over each chord of the chord progression, John, it sounds like you're thinking too much, okay? Whereas what I was trying to show you is like, here's a starting point to create a solo. I wasn't teaching you, I can't teach you how to solo necessarily. That's almost an impossible thing to do because there's so many variables. But I can give you the big picture stuff. and so one of the forks in the road, and it's a two-pronged fork. You can either play over the overarching key of the song, and you could use that as your kind of foundational roadmap for soloing, or you could play over each individual chord. And if I did that, sure, I might, I could go, oh, okay, C chord, A minor, and to me that just sounds. I mean, granted, I think we could. Right? That's pretty much what Mark Knopfler did on Sultans of Swing. And it's totally legitimate. He treated it kind of like this, almost an ostinato, playing over the chords. A lot of the, they would do that kind of thing too. Yeah, so you can totally think of each individual chord. But that's a bigger bite to chew. That's a bigger bite to take for a beginner soloist, for one thing. And the other thing is, I generally want something that's a little bit more overarching and maybe find commonalities between the chords, and that's where playing the C, D, C, and I'm not thinking root of the C, and then I'm not thinking third of the A minor so much, and then fifth of the F chord, and I'm not thinking fourth. That would be too much thinking. Again, don't think, play. So yeah, you got to be careful if you're going to be outlining chords or thinking the chords as you play, because you're going to be tempted to write or play a solo that's going to sound a little too Bach-like. It's going to sound like a fugue of some kind. Now that said, bebop, oftentimes you will play through the changes, so you will be. You might be tempted to play a little bit more through the changes, even though the chord changes are totally in the key of C. But the better solos might be the ones that you're really just trying to create a good melody. And so, anyway, that said, see, yeah, John, and that's if I may be only here in your life to tell you to stop thinking so much. That may be the only reason I exist for John. So, exactly. Don't solo as if there's going to be a quiz. And that's why I think it's a good idea if you have a DAW, meaning a digital, if you have a way to record yourself on the computer and create a very simple chord progression like I did here, if you can do that, not hard to do, then you're very likely to be able to record a bunch of different solos and take a bunch of different tasks. How am I going to, I'm going to try to think about it this way. I'm going to try to think about it this way. I'm going to try to do a blues solo. I'm going to try to do a jazz solo. I'm going to try to do a metal solo. I'm going to try to do a rock solo, whatever. So just now notice there's like a weird hi-hat in that drum. That's funny. I think it's swinging too. No, not swinging. It's a halftime feel. So I can go like this. Weird. Anyway. Logic has a program built into it called Drummer, and it's great. That's what I'm using to create drum tracks. It's you just hit load, and then you can make all. It's got like XY kind of controls on it, so you can make it busier, louder, softer, not so busy. You can swing it. You can have it be a really busy Philly drummer. You can change the drum. You can keep the pattern the drummer comes up with. But and I should do at some point. I wonder. I think I've got an option here. Let's see. Oh, use the browser display capture. Yeah, I'll have to try to see what display capture does. I'll do that at some point with the OBS. I might be able to actually have me be little teeny tiny in the corner and then have the display big so I could talk about how I create some tracks and things like that. But the problem is it would be Logic, and not everybody uses Logic. So anyway. Yeah, John, probably true in life too. How often do we overthink things? I know I do it all the time. Overthinking keeps me up at night sometimes, and that's not good. All right, so let's see, what do we have? Okay, any questions? It doesn't have to be related to soloing. I'm taking a sip. I'll change guitars so you guys can take a sip. I was in Dad Get, or Open D. I can take a sip for that too because I didn't know what tuning it was. Anyway, no questions. Wow. Well, that's not a surprise. Yeah, and iced coffee is, it's. I agree. It's knowing. That's why I always say there won't be a quiz on it because it does want to be, you don't want to have to be thinking too much. But however, if you want to be a professional guitar player, make a living at it, or if you want to be a session guitar player, yeah, you're going to need to learn a lot of that other stuff. But if you can make it work for you without having to do I mean, what you're talking about, iced coffee, is a lot about kind of like what I'm doing when I'm playing in open tunings. I'm not normally an open tuning guy, and so when I have an open tuning up, some of it is knowledge, like I know where the roots and the thirds are, and I know where the susses are, but I'm also experimenting. But I might experiment something. May not work. See, you're like there, it didn't work. But yeah, I'm just messing around and kind of going with the flow and feeling and then trying to remember what did work and what didn't work, and then you build on that, like you said. And that's that's because I'm out of my sphere of knowledge, and so I have to kind of depend more on experimenting and testing the waters and trying things. But when I'm on a standard tuned guitar, I don't really have. I can think too much, and that's a real temptation. The string radius is giving me problems with the slide. 6 string in particular is not clear unless I press down fairly hard. You're talking about on your which guitar, Bruce? On acoustic guitar and electric guitar. Because But here's what I would do. For you, I would go ahead and start to sing along with some of your licks. Try to get it so that you're playing stuff that's up here onto your guitar. But it takes a while. The path has to be established, so you can go. It can be the guitar first, then your head, then eventually it's and then it's eventually okay. But if you start to establish that pattern, just sing by yourself. If no one's, it doesn't matter if on acoustic. Yeah, so some acoustic guitars. Well, Bruce, I'm not. Like, I don't play a lot, although I just did slide. One thing, if you use a glass slide, it's a little bit easier because I feel like, because you can have you're not going to fret out. But yeah, no, you definitely, if you're going to try to get all 6 strings, and of course in G tuning, I don't really hit the 6th string. But if you're in D tuning, the other thing is, like, I want to get a Weissenborn. I probably may get one before the end of the year. We'll see. But some of that, that noise and that thing is intrinsic for everyone. So it's almost idiomatic. It almost is part of that sound. So if you're like, oh man, I'm having a hard time not getting this 6th string to sound funny. Well, that's probably true for everyone, and that's part of the sound of playing slide. But yeah, on the open G, I hardly ever use the 6th string. But I totally understand. If the radius, slide is generally flat. Although, I did that. It's in my case, but you might check out that preaching pipe, okay? Because it has a taper to it. So you can get slides that have a slight taper, like a slight taper that can. I don't know if there's slides for specific radiuses, but I thought that preacher pipe one. What's it? Preaching pipe? Is that what it's called? Preaching pipe. Slide. Something like that. Yeah. See, if you look at this one here. This has got enough of a taper. I think it accommodates for that. So I would get this. Let's see, one second. Copy. Uh-oh. Weird. I just got a warning that my stream health wasn't good, but it looks good here. Anyway, we're going to take off. But Bruce, check out that. Vito says, funny thing, I can do the singing and playing for the Pentatonic Shapes 1, but then when it comes to after playing for 5 or 7 minutes, and then after 30 minutes, I forget it and then need to recalibrate my ears. Yeah, that's just time. The more you do it, the less you'll have to recalibrate. I mean, when I talk about, one of the forks of the road for soloing is, are you going to improvise, just wing it, or are you going to write something? And winging it is writing something. It's just writing something on the fly. And anytime you write something on the fly, you run the risk of it not being very good. So what this ties to you, Vito. No, it's got a slight. If you look at the slide, it's got a slight bend to it. So in other words, it's not flat right here. It's actually slightly curved all the way around. So that helps you keep contact with the strings if your strings aren't flat, which they generally are. But unlike my dobro, I wouldn't want to use that because my dobro is flat. But when you write a solo, let's say you've got a 16-bar solo to write. And you write this solo, you're sitting at home, you're writing a solo, and it takes you 12 hours to write this solo. The next day, you got to do another one. And this one only, same kind of thing, 16 bars, it takes you 6 hours. And then the next day, you do it again, and now you get a little better at it. Now it only takes you 3 hours. And the next day you're writing a solo and it takes you an hour and a half. And the next day it takes you 45 minutes. The next day it takes 20 minutes. And the next day it takes 10 minutes. The next day it takes 5 minutes. The next day it takes 2 minutes. The next day it takes 1 minute. Pretty soon you're to the point where you can write a solo on the fly. Does that make sense? So that's why I kind of would like to write solos. I would, I've written a million solos over giant steps. I wish I had giant steps down. If I was playing bebop, I probably would have it down, but I just don't play it anymore. I used to play it a lot, and the band I played in, they never would do giant steps because nobody liked soloing over it. So I never got any rehearsal time with giant steps. It was all personal enrichment type stuff. Yes, the CBG won't be any radius. That's fine. Yeah, so I have a multitude of, probably end up using this one on it, to tell the truth. This small glass one will work perfect for that. This is almost the same width as a guitar. It is wider, technically, believe it or not, that's wider than my Strat neck, so don't have a problem with that. But again, this is perfectly flat along the side, so the taper, or the concaveness of the exterior of the slide really does kind of keep you in contact. So pick up one of those, I think you'll dig it. So anyway, okay, I am going to sign off, and I will see you Friday. We're going to continue talking on this. I may continue on this whole, playing, using the root there. I may just do it in different positions, and we're going to, hopefully you can imitate what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep it simple so you can do it on acoustic or electric, not doing too many bends. And then, Avito potentially, or you could treat it like a classical piece. You're like, I want to accommodate every chord and things like that. It's hard to explain, but yeah, basically, just writing a solo. I mean, like literally tabbing it out. Like, here's what I'm going to do in this bar, this bar, this bar, this bar, and then and then change it. Go, oh, that didn't work, so I'm going to change it to this. And you could take a whole day doing that, coming up with what you think is the perfect solo. And then the next day you have a different progression, write a new solo, and it takes less time. The idea is for you to be able to create the perfect solo on the fly, ultimately, of course. That's the goal. The channel. Thank you, Dennis. I don't know that we have any newbies here, but just in case we do, here's should be a permanent link to join, permanent invite let's see, invite, there we go. Nope, there we go. This one should be permanent, should last a while anyway. A keyless riff? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm always aware of the key I'm playing in, so I don't know if there's something that's a keyless riff that you can do over any chord. No, probably not. No, I mean, you could do dive bombs and junk like that. That's just tricks. But that's not, that's for more making people laugh than anything. So, okay, Ice Coffee. Well, I hope so. I hope it was good. We'll talk more on this subject. Like I said, it's a huge subject, and I'm going to try to see if I can formulate some kind of a video for the forks in the road for soloing. So anyway, we'll talk soon. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.